While everyone else is posting cute couple photos and a soft launch story, we're asking the only relationship question that really matters. Who has Sonic actually loved in the mainline series? Because, yeah, Sonic runs from robots, he runs from gods, and he runs at the speed of sound. But when it comes to romance, he might be the running even faster. Depending on who you ask, Sonic is secretly in love with Amy, low-key into Princess Elise, which is weird, flirting with Rouge, or he's just committed to one thing: pure freedom. Today we're breaking it all down properly. The full mainline canon, specific scenes, the Sonic 06 test of love where you literally choose between Amy or Elise, the Generations cutscene they changed in Shadow Generations, and how Amy went from obsessed fangirl to an actually grounded character. And since this is going up on Valentine's Day, drop Happy Valentine's Day in the comments so the algorithm thinks we're in a healthy parasocial relationship. Let's set the rules. Here's how this works. We're only counting the mainline console games and storybook titles. This includes Sonic CD, Adventure 1 and 2, and Heroes, 06, Unleashed, Black Knight, Generations, Frontiers, and Sonic X Shadow Generations for the updated cutscenes. We are not counting Archie and IDW and Fleetway, Sonic X/SatAM, Sonic Boom, mobile spin-offs, and Olympic Party titles, but we will briefly mention Sally Acorn, because she is Sonic's big romance interest in Archie/SatAM, not just in the game canon. Mainline Sonic only. No comics copium, no button IDW. Let's start with the obvious one, Amy Rose. From fangirl to partner material. Amy Rose's story starts in Sonic CD. She literally reads her tarot cards, sees a prediction about her meeting her destined love, and then runs into Sonic and decides on the spot that he is the one. Metal Sonic kidnaps her. Sonic rescues her. The classic damsel setup, but there's one important detail. Sonic saves her because he's the hero. There's no blush, no confession, no I love you too. So from the very start, Amy's love is loud and explicit. Sonic's response is heroic, but emotionally neutral. That imbalance sets out the tone for decades. The next story we have to speak about is Sonic Adventure. Amy finally gets to grow up, because in this game, Amy gets real characterization. Her story literally opens with her bored in Station Square, and she misses hanging out with her hero Sonic, and wanting her life to be more than just the same mundane routine. The key beats is that she jumps into Sonic while catching a flicky with a Chaos Emerald. Zero chases her, Sonic steps in to protect her. And on the egg carrier, when Sonic goes in to finish off Gamma, Amy physically steps between them and begs Sonic to stop. This robot is different, you don't need to hurt him, okay? Sonic actually listens, he backs off because Amy asks him to. That's not a goofy crush moment, that's Sonic respecting her judgment. But romantically, still nothing explicit. Amy literally says afterward that she should be more independent instead of always needing Sonic to rescue her. So even going back to Adventure 1, Sega was already seeding the idea that Amy has to grow beyond Sonic's Sonic fangirl. In SA2, she actually says something pretty crazy. If I tell you, will you marry me? Cause in SA2, everyone does remember this scene. Sonic is in prison, falsely accused, Amy finds him and asks him that exact quote. And Sonic hits her with an instant, no way. It's played as a joke, but it's in a very loud context. Amy is openly pushing marriage. Sonic isn't just shy, he rejects the idea entirely. And later, Eggman literally calls Amy Sonic's girlfriend when she's threatening Sonic with the Chaos Emerald trade. Then we'll talk about your girlfriend, that is if you really care for her. Eggman is weaponizing Amy's feelings, but again, Sonic never turns off the camera and says, yeah, she is. So, SA2 gives us these two distinct features. Amy's crush is dialed up. Sonic is very respectful but emotionally evasive. Now this is where things truly crank up in Heroes, the storybook games, and the running gag. Because in Heroes, it literally forms Team Rose to chase Sonic down and to force a marriage proposal. Sonic spends the game running away from her, and the whole joke is crazy girlfriend chases commitment-phobic guy. And then in the storybook games, they kinda twist the knife a little bit. Because in Secret Rings, there's no Amy, but it's the last sign of Sonic as a more reluctant, emotionally dodging hero. In Sonic and the Black Knight, Amy appears as Nimue, the Lady of the Lake. She flirts in a calmer, more regal way, and Sonic is less hostile to her than usual. Post-credits, back in the real world, Sonic was supposed to meet Amy for an actual date, and misses it because of the whole King Arthur adventure. Amy chases him with a hammer and then tries to act like that as an excuse. So, canonically, Amy did manage to get Sonic to agree to a date, even if it's off-screen implied, but the universe literally drags him away. The comedy is always Sonic and Amy almost get a moment, and then something interrupts. Now, we hit Sonic Unleashed, which gives one of the most strongest emotional Sonic Amy moments. When Amy first meets the werehog, she grabs him in the street thinking he's Sonic. realizes he's not, Sonic, and apologizes, walking away. Sonic in werehog form just sort of stands there, sad and silent. Fans and shipping analysis point out that it reads like a rare moment of Sonic being insecure. He doesn't want Amy to see him looking monstrous. Later, when he rescues her from Dark Eye's possessed townspeople, he swings away before she can even get a good look. This is important because Sonic is not annoyed by Amy here, he's worried about how she'll see him. And some fans interpret that as Sonic valuing Amy's opinion more than he admits. On top of that, Unleashed includes a side part where Amy asks Sonic for a date, and the player can choose to accept. If you say yes, she'll happily run off to planet where she goes to save the world. And that's an optional part, but it's the closest to the mainline titles where we get Sonic to agreeing to her romantic framing. But it's not a confession, it's not nothing. Now, you may ask me, where is Sonic 06? Because Amy mistakes Silver for Sonic, but Amy is constantly trying to find Sonic in 06, and the test of love perfectly encapsulates his possession. We'll deep dive into Elise for a second, but 06 gives Amy a crucial moment, the Town Mission 20, the test of love. So, to enter Kingdom Valley, Sonic has to pass 3 trials: intelligence, courage, and love. In the test of love, you stand in Soleana Forest. There are 2 warp gates, one with Amy beside it, one with Elise. A priest tells you that this will test Sonic's sense of love. You can choose Amy or Elise as your love interest, step through a portal, and talk to the priest on the other side and confirm. If any of you have picked Elise, I will Anyway, mechanically, it does nothing to the story. Elise still kisses Sonic later, and the ending is the same regardless. But symbolically, the game acknowledges that both Amy and Elise are valid romantic options in Sonic's life, and the priest's reactions calmer if you pick Amy and more uneasy if you pick Elise, according to the fan breakdowns, gets interpreted as the narrative leaning towards Amy as the healthier choice. Then there's Amy and Elise together. In 06, Amy meets Elise while Elise is escaping from Eggman's base. Amy realizes that Elise is waiting on someone special to rescue her, and Amy comments that Elise holds that person dear. It mirrors her own feelings for Sonic. Even in one game where Elise gets to the overt romance, Amy is framed as the consistent long-term attachment. Generations, the infamous paste block versus the cupcake fix. Because the original 2011's opening, it was Sonic's birthday party. Amy runs up from behind, clearly going in for a hug or a kiss, but Sonic literally holds her back by the face with his hand sticking while talking to Tails about the surprise. The whole visual gag is that Amy is overbearing as a fangirl, invading his space, and Sonic is annoyed, physically pushing her away. Later, when you rescue Amy from the Time Eater, she says, "You saved me, Sonic. I was afraid I'd never be able to flirt with you again." Sonic turns away and face palms. Again, played as comedy, but it reinforces Amy's crush is text, and Sonic's response is exasperation. Fast forwarding to Shadow Generations, the exact birthday scene gets reanimated. Amy is no longer lunging in for the kiss, she walks up calmly, holding a tray of cupcake in Sonic's colors and offering them to him. There's no face block, and definitely no aggressive romantic lunge. This change is huge because modern Sega clearly doesn't want Amy as framed as a joke stalker girlfriend anymore. Instead, she's kind, thoughtful, celebrating his birthday with something she made, while Sonic is simply busy reacting to the Time Eater attack. It fits in with the biggest shift we later see in Frontiers and IDW, where Amy is written as more mature and emotionally grounded while still in love with Sonic. And in Sonic X Shadow Generations, when you rescue Rouge, she literally thanks Sonic with, "Thanks Big Blue, you're a real gem." So both Amy and Rouge are being reframed. Less mean to comedy at Amy's expense, and more playful equal banter across the cast. Now, here's for the most important part where Amy glows up, and so does Sonic in respect. Because in Sonic Frontiers, Amy is almost unrecognizable compared to her Marry Me Right Now era in Heroes. There's a couple key things she does. Firstly, when Sonic frees her from the cyber cage, she's in a ghost-like form, but immediately worries more about Sonic and Tails than herself. She spends her time helping the Coco, reuniting lost lovers, calming the grieving parents, and basically becoming the wanderer counselor of love. And this reshapes her character on helping other people's relationships and not just fixating on Sonic. Something beautiful was Sonic listened to our ideas, encourages the others to help the Coco because Amy convinced him, and has unused lines in the game where he says, "I wish we were sharing an umbrella, Amy," and "I should have made my mind up sooner," which strongly hint that he's wrestling with unspoken feelings for her. And there's fan discussion around Frontiers and modern Amy. She's seen as more mature and self-aware, more of a clingy fangirl, and more of an equal partner who still loves him, but definitely respects his space. Old Amy was pushed back for romance and Sonic rejected it, and modern Amy backs off a bit, and Sonic becomes a lot more emotionally open around her. If you're looking for Sonic actually might like Amy back, Frontiers and those unused lines are the strongest current gen evidence. Now for the negative part of this video. Elise, the only on-screen kiss. Now, we have to talk about Princess Elise in 06. The game is very obviously tries to set up a fairy tale romance. Sonic rescues Elise multiple times from Eggman, they share quiet scenes on balconies and in the desert where she talks about her isolation and duty. Sonic encourages her to smile, to live, to take action, instead of waiting passively. The famous line she remembers later while trying to escape on her own. Elise clearly falls for Sonic. She holds his hand, clings to him, opens up emotion. Fan and essay breakdowns agree that she loves him at least to a point where they're wanting to stay side by side. But what about Sonic? He never verbally says he loves her, and his personality doesn't change. He's still the optimistic, freedom-pushing hero. He's emotionally supportive, but not romantically expressive. Now, we have to speak about the controversial kiss and the reset button. Because at the climax, Sonic is killed by Mephiles. Elise breaks down crying, releasing Iblis, and Sonic's friends gather to find the Chaos Emeralds to bring his body back. Elise kisses him, which triggers the emeralds and restores him back before the timeline is reset. That kiss is the only on-screen human-on-hedgehog kiss in the mainline canon, and is framed as a mix of a romantic and magical revival, depending on the interpretation, if you're crazy of course. And then Sonic and Elise go back in time to blow out the Solaris Flame, erasing the entire game events, and most interpretations give the idea that the relationship is undone. Sonic and Elise never meet like that in the new timeline. Some fans argue that Elise still feels something at the end when she sees the feather and smiles, but canonically, whatever romance existed is wiped from continuity. So, Elise is the most overtly romantic pairing Sonic's ever had, but it's self-destructing canon. The story literally erases itself, and I'm damn glad it did, because Sonic and Elise as a couple made literally no sense, and I hated it. We have to link this back to the test of love, because remember that the priest makes Sonic choose between Amy and Elise as his love interests. Functionally, it changes nothing. Symbolically, it acknowledges Elise and Amy as candidates. Fans point out the priest's dialogue is no longer a bit uneasy if you pick Elise, quicker and more of course if you pick Amy, like he expected that. Then, by the end of the game, Elise's romance is erased. Amy goes back to being the long-term constant, so even in the game, then he tries to be the hardest to make Elise the girl. The structure of the story ends up favouring Amy in the long run. I bet a lot of you were excited for this character, so here we go, Rouge the Bat. Big blue and playful banter. Because Rouge is interesting because people love to ship her with anyone. In the mainline titles, she's been introduced to Sonic in Adventure 2 as Knuckles' rival and a jewel thief. She doesn't really interact with Sonic until the arc finale, where they all team up. In games like Heroes, Chronicles, and Party Title, she's more of a wildcard ally. The shipping wiki and fan discussions note that Rouge calls Sonic Big Blue starting in Sonic Chronicles and then again in Generations and later content. In Sonic X Shadow Generations, after you rescue her, she says, "Thanks Big Blue, you're a real gem." That's flirty, no question, but look at the pattern. Rouge uses pet names like Sweetie, Honey, and Big Blue for multiple characters, including Tails and Shadow. It's part of her personality, not a targeted romance specifically at Sonic. Her primary deep attention is always with Knuckles and Shadow. Though in Generations, she's just another friend at the birthday party, popping party poppers and cheering him on like everyone else. So, yes, there's cheerful banter. Yes, Big Blue sounds spicy, but there's no arc where Sonic and Rouge build a romantic connection in the mainline canon. If you ship Sonuge, that's fine, but canonically though, it's teasing, not love really. So, the last point I want to make is Sonic loves freedom. This is the philosophical angle. In Black Knight, every world has its end. That's the one thing that Sonic consistently chooses over romance, because in Sonic and the Black Knight, after defeating Melina, Sonic delivers one of his most iconic lines. Every world has its end. I know that's kind of sad, but that's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have. At least, that's what I figure. Melina wants to freeze Camelot in a timeless state to prevent loss. Sonic rejects this idea completely. He sees an eternal, unchanging world as worse for one that ends naturally. His ideology was, change is natural. You don't have to control other people's lives. You live fully in the time you get. That live, keep moving mindset shows up everywhere. His classic intro line, just a guy that loves adventure. In Unleashed, he literally runs around a shattered planet, never staying in one place. And in Frontiers, he helps his friends confront their futures, and then keeps moving while they all pursue their own paths. So, locking Sonic into a fixed domestic relationship would cut directly into the central image of a wandering hero. So when people say that Sonic's true love is freedom, that's not just a meme tag, it's literally how the games write him. Now I must bring up Sally Acorn, because Sonic can be written in a long-term romance. Sega just chooses not to do that in the games. So, has Sonic actually ever loved anyone? Well, for Amy, you stack up everything for Sonic CD, to the genuine, mature, and independent character by Frontiers. Sonic is visibly listening to her, softening around her, and in later material hinting that he'd make up his mind sooner regarding her. And the test of love literally frames her as Sonic's possible true loves, and the unleashed date exceptions and the non-mainline things like Sonic Chronicles let you choose to reciprocate her feelings, which shows Sega is comfortable teasing that route when it's optional. Is there an on-screen canon confession by Sonic to Amy in the mainline titles? No, but if Sega ever decides to make Sonic pick someone, that groundwork is overwhelmingly pointing at modern mature Amy, not her early obsessive self. There is a couple of things for Elise, the most explicitly romantic framing in the game for the kiss, and the emotional bonding scenes across 06 as a whole, but Sonic never says he loves her, the story erases the entire relationship via the Solaris reset, and later in the games they never reference her as a lingering presence in Sonic's heart. Even some defenders of the scene argue that Sonic cares for her very deeply, but isn't really loving with Elise, more of a crush or a close bond, with Elise doing most of the emotional heavy lifting. So, Elise is the loudest romance, with the weakest continuity. There's not really much with Rouge, because she's sort of a flirty character as a whole, and with Sonic's idea of freedom, I guess you could say that's definitely the biggest part of who Sonic loves philosophically. But if I could give you one concrete answer, it's Amy. If Sonic had an adult heart, he'd probably choose Amy, but he's written not to settle romantically, which leads to the honest answer: Amy. Sonic gets flustered, shows loyalty, cares deeply, and sometimes hides feelings. So Amy Rose would be the strongest candidate. Thanks for watching this video, and make sure to like and subscribe only if you like me as a person, and if you did enjoy this video, maybe check out this one here. Happy Valentine's Day everyone, and be sure to leave a kind comment to someone in the comments.